Garail continues to wreck the Super Galaxy Mega, power drained from each impact as the shielding systems continue to blow. Yuusaku finally calls in, reporting the project completed, and with things the way they are, it's needed immediately. Thus, Shogo takes over for the Rangers to at least keep Galaxy Mega a standing target to limit collateral damage as the team piles into Delta Mega and take off for the moon. Yes, Einid has a moon base, and yet they've continued to operate out of Galaxy Mega. From a story perspective, why? You put people's lives in danger by keeping them on that ship! Garail's offspring, the Gigire, takes off and follows them, clamping down on Galaxy Mega's thrusters. Not a good place, dude. Time for maximum overdrive! They make it land at the base, Yuusaku showing them their secondary mecha, the Voyager machines. While secondary mecha had been a thing for years, a secondary full combiner robot capable of replacing the main Megazord was still a newer concept. And because we'd been seeing simplistic but cool combiners the previous stretch of the year, it's been more expected to see 5 mechs that would come together. However, there's always been something that's bugged me about the Voyager machines. I get the Saturn V rocket and the shuttle, but why is Kenta's designed after an astronaut? Is Chisato's supposed to be a flying saucer? And what is Miku's supposed to be? The wiki says it's a tank modeled after a lunar rover, but that doesn't look right for that, at least to me. Of course, as they launch, Yuusaku reveals he's been a dick again and not only made Kenta's unit have an embarrassing launch sequence, but his controls are intentionally designed to be as non-user friendly as possible, so as to sink said Red's ego concerning his superior skill as a gamer, and only one of them specifically scouted for the Megaranger powers originally. It could easily have been they skipped post-test calibrations, but the framing's why I called Yuusaku out on that. The Gigire has, of course, followed, and to make sure the moon base stays secure, well, the Royal Voyagers allowed a short solo deployment before teaming up with the other mechs. The Megavoyager, ladies and gentlemen. Though that combination phrase I honestly expected from Gingaman. It makes planetfall, intervening as power fails on the Galaxy Mega completely, Megavoyager showing its shields and armor far more advanced, Garail doing absolutely no damage to the mech, and quickly calling down their finishing weapon from its remains in orbit. Sayonara, Garail! But it's a somewhat Pyrrhic victory, as Galaxy Mega has been totaled, and Shogo's worse off than he was before. Javius is likewise not happy at all, Hinelar lying through his teeth and twisting the facts to keep him above suspicion. He'd make for an excellent Republican politician. The Galaxy Mega is helped up to the moon base where it's placed in dry dock for extensive repairs. With the Voyager machines complete, things aren't as critical, but it and Delta Mega are going to be unavailable for some time. Which, all things considered, is a decent way to mediate the multiple Megazords issue. With such, it's constantly a question why, when you have it, you don't use it even if you have the new thing around for better advantage. This storyline reason to write it out for a time without leaving it in enemy hands was good planning. On Earth, as Kenta catches a train, a woman tries to get his attention. He thinks it's a love confession. The others think he's being absurd. But sure enough... Suck it, Gentaro Kisaragi! Actually, no. This is Megumi Takano. She is from INET, and one of the programmers of the Battle Riser, there to install the programs that would allow for its third button to become operational, as before this, Kent has only been able to utilize the first and second ones. But she dropped the data at the station when she tried to get Kenta's attention, and spends much of the episode being delayed on its installation, resulting in Kenta believing she's into him as her dialogue ends up being a series of phrases that can be double entendre. Hinelar, however, has used data in the remains of Garail's body to enhance his Nijire monsters into the psycho Nijira. The first of this breed, Lion Nijira, attacking them, planting a series of bombs, only for battle to be diverted. Yeah, we now have his cyborg armed form, even though Ugand was a robot already. But his sword now has elemental energy attacks, which is key in Lion planting his devices and arming them, all of which will go off if the trigger is tripped before he dies. It's surprisingly not a dead man switch, which would make a bit more sense. But because of the Battle Riser's new upgrade, and in tandem with the Drill Sniper Custom, destroys Lion Nijira before the bombs can arm. Damn, man. Though from that description I get why In Space took the route it did with the third button. Megumi has to crush Kenta's affections as she's in a relationship. Who with? Well, the Battle Riser's link to Delta Mega is a bit more symbolic than one might expect, as she's dating Shogo, who's shown being in better health. While we've seen insights into the families of Kenta, Shun, and Chisato, we never really see their families in full. Concerning for much the same reason the teens in Power Rangers rarely have their parents relevant. Because they are teenagers. But episode 34 expands a bit on Koichiro's family life, showing he has a little brother named Shinji that's on a soccer team, and Koichiro, when he was younger and had more time, had an affinity for the sport he's been unable to pass on. And Shinji's ability and interest in it has suffered because he's not been getting the assistance practicing Koichiro promised him, which is sadly understandable with everything going on with being a Mega Ranger and keeping his grades stable and studying for his entrance exams. But Shinji doesn't know that, despite knowing Koichiro's primary characteristic is reliability, so isn't reneging on this on purpose. Granted, Koichiro has been driving the rest of the team hard in new training regimens to prepare for Neji-Regia, so I don't get why he wouldn't do this training with someone who'd want it when his 4 teammates have been doing everything they can to avoid such activities when they absolutely don't have to, especially when they know he has a prior commitment. But the thing is, Shinji's soccer coach that has been railing him for his failings, it turns out that he is 100% manufactured evil. And not that all-natural stuff you find from soccer matches deciding who obtains the golden fruit or video games made by Electronic Arts. No, seriously, the Porcupine Nijira has been training and brainwashing the team so they can kick explosive soccer balls into the crowds of a championship game while disguised as a human. Koichiro ends up finding this out when the enthralled Shinji leaves their home at night, and ends up being captured when he follows and is used as target practice. But as the attack gets underway, he intervenes, frees the kids from control before they can commit murder, and saves his brother from the porcupine with a soccer kick which curves in mid-air? Damn, man, how is that even possible? You know what? Give him the Battle Riser. He'd apparently make for a better Kamen Riser with that leg. And it ends with a case of everybody wins, as Koichiro is too focused on making up time with his brother to care that his teammates are avoiding him for the moment to escape his training sessions. At the lunar base, the team undergo health tests to confirm transforming isn't having a negative effect on their physiology, as they were never able to conduct a long-term trial of such considering, you know, the powers lock themselves to their users. It makes me wonder who the user of the Mega Silver Gear was before Yuusaku, as when he was introduced, it was confirmed it wasn't Kim who originally tested it. He just took it from INET's storage facility. Speaking of Yuusaku, he's not there, and he hasn't been around for the last few conflicts, even though his workload's dropped off immensely. Strange. What's he been up to? Well, Kenta and Miku go to find out, overhearing dialogue as he consults a doctor, making them believe he's dying. And since they just had tests to make sure they're not suffering negative effects from the suits, consider that might be one of the flaws of using the prototype gear. And his words on the matter don't discourage that opinion. Mantis Nijira attacks using his special eyes to keep aware of the entire team's movements and countering them, necessitating Yuusaku's assistance. That as this is his first encounter with a Nijira, well, he is not having as good a performance and his power levels seem low, his time limit expiring. Mantis, however, has gotten what it needs. A record of how long Yuusaku can stay transformed. Kenta and Miku let slip to the others about Yuusaku's condition, and of course, shenanigans ensue. Yuusaku busy working as they've come to intervene and try to take his mind off his problems, when in reality, they're just being pests. Why? They never ask him if that's what's really happening. In truth, the doctor he was consulting, it was to research how to best modify the Mega Silver suit for better effectiveness. Shown when Mantis Nijira locks a bomb onto him set to expire as he powers down, only to reveal he no longer has to. While not as strong as before, Mega Silver's one weakness has been eliminated. And now, the Mega Rangers are a full 6-man band. And of course, Miku and Kenta get ribbed for their gullibility. I don't know why, as considering the information they had, it was a reasonable concern. Why Yuusaku's been so focused on removing his limitation when he hadn't taken the focus before becomes evident in the next episode. His personal mech, the Megavoyager, has been completed. When they were assigning the funding for the Voyager machines, Yuusaku managed to pad their figures and supplies enough to get this little item under their radars. So he'll finally be joining them against their giant enemies now. But INET's higher-ups are finally putting their foot down with regards to his conduct. They needed the Voyager machines, so they tolerated it, but it's finally time for the hammer to come down and have his K-Tizer taken. Wait, did he ever lock the Mega Silver suit to himself? As, remember, the other Mega Ranger suits locked to their users. The main cast tried to dispute this, as Yuusaku's been responsible for getting them out of some serious jam. Never mess with black apples. But INET's vice chief, Kojima, why are the vice whatever's always the douchebag? Anyways, he's not having any of that. It's ironically only due to Condor Nijire's attempted kidnapping does the series of events occur which allows him to get it back, and his defensive Kojima gets him kidnapped instead. Condor's got an ego about him, trying to use Yuusaku as a hostage to obtain the Megavoyager in exchange for his continued well-being, which they honestly consider, in a make them think they're getting what they want as part of a bigger plan, which Kojima pulls rank over. Oh, that is low. And you're missing the point. Yuusaku is more than just a member of the team. His life, his well-being matters more than just having an ally. They would do the same if this were a family member, someone like Shoga or especially Kubota. They, of course, defy Kojima, who in turn orders the base lockdown, forgetting to lock down their powers.
You are made of stupid.
Yeah, teenagers with superpowers you've pissed off. Good luck with that. They take the Voyager machines and fall into Condor's trap. Of course, Kenta threatens to trigger the Megazord's self-destruct, the monster valuing its life, but Shiba-Ren and Yugan should hold their hostage. Huh, surprised no one held a blade to his neck. Have I mentioned I love it when the villains are intelligent? They might have their off moments in this show, but man are they consistently competent. However, Kubota's not taking this down, piloting the Digitank into battle himself, rescuing Yuusaku, and handing the man his K-Tizer. This leading to the debut battle of the Megavoyager, which can attach its backpack to allow the Megavoyager sustained atmospheric flight when the Condor tries to make its grand-scale escape. Kojima's pissed, but he's been overruled. With Galaxy and Delta Mega still down, a support mech for Megavoyager makes a lot of sense to keep in good condition, and only Mega Silver can pilot it. And as shown by the team's actions, they would only accept Yuusaku. Episode 37's another weird one, as Moriboshi prepares for a cultural festival, Chisato being coached and pampered because she has talent as a singer on top of her skill as a photographer. Okay, this comes a bit out of nowhere. I mean, I get the whole singer thing. Japan is a big industry for female idol singers, and a lot of such actors get their big breaks from Toei's Tokusatsu library. But there's no real build-up to this. A talent she doesn't indulge in much? I guess. But it's just, Miku really doesn't have anything she's good at, and considering she's been characterized as the girl all season, she really could have used a talent that played into that. Hell, Miku's special combat power as Mega Pink relates to audio transmissions. You were practically gift-wrapped doing that with her. Hell, I looked up Mami Higashiyama's bio, and while I couldn't find any performances, she does have singing listed as a skill. At least in this instance, Chisato's use of said ability in this festival, and the reason for her friend Irina's constant worrying, are warranted, as it's one that's had a cursed streak to it. The last 2 years she's tried have ended in one disaster after another. But as they prepared for every conventional means of preventing Chisato from singing, of course the universe is going to throw them a curveball in the form of an unconventional means. Specifically, BB Devi. The rest of the Neji Regi are busy planning their next offensive, so this idiotic mutant Pac-Man gets his chance to create his own plot. And it involves stealing Chica from Freddy Fazbear's Pizza? My god. The Neji Regi are behind Afton Robotics. Hell, it even wants to stuff people in its animatronic body to steal their voices. Diabolical. Yeah, as you'd expect, Canary Najira steals Chizato's voice, and she is not happy about being stuck sounding like an old man. Made worse is Chisato can't transform now, as on top of the installation code, there's also a vocal lockout to transformation. Once again, it's showing genre savviness and giving a point to the customary henshin phrase aside from the rule of cool. I really like it when shows play with that. But Canary's ability to swap objects and concepts really pays off, as it seals the other's weapons, combining them into something that was not what I wanted to see in an all-5 weapon combination, but it's closer. It doesn't work, as it has no trigger to fire with, as the Mega Slinger's not available. Fortunately, they managed to eventually trick Canary into saying the phrase for Chisato to join them in battle, and with it dead, her voice returns, but too late for the concert, or so she thinks. For in a show of support, Irina and Oiwa encouraged everyone to stick around for their return. You know, with a show of support like this, it would be really hard to take away from that by later showing all of these people as massive hypocrites. But you might be wondering where Hinelar, Shibaruna, and Ugand went. Well, there is a story arc this series is infamous for, which became one of the major highlights of Power Rangers in Space when they directly adapted it. And it begins as the Mega Ranger are called out to fight themselves. But even from a single exchange, the truth of these doppelgangers is exposed. Anything Kubota can do, Hinelar believes he can do better. And as such, he has created his own Sentai team. The Jaden Sentai Neji Ranger. While not the first evil Sentai, such before this has been limited solely to stables of doppelgangers, monsters, fakers, or clones that take the form of the related team, and not their own entities. With exception to Dragon Ranger Barai and the flowery Kunonichi girls from Kakaranger, but even the latter are just coming off as a group of specialized mook or sub-general. No offense meant to Kakaranger fans, but the Neji Ranger to me are the one true evil Sentai team. The first and last time this concept would be executed in full in Super Sentai to date. And it's easy to see why. This was an obvious culmination of Hinelar's schemes and character motives, and the framing of all his plots has always been as pieces in a grander plan, experiments to perfect his ultimate weapons. The other reason is they got it so right, it's difficult to see them doing it again without rehashing the same storyline. With different players and plots, certainly, but they'd have to retread the same basic elements. The team overpowered initially, pick them off one by one, final climactic exchange that pushes them to their all. After this, we'd instead get more doppelganger clones of the current team, ones made from their stolen powers, backwards engineered ranger abilities with single users, or Sentai that start off antagonistic, but eventually join the main group. Though that last one is more rehashing the arc of Dragon Ranger Barai, usually better than Zyuranger itself executed such. But the Neji Ranger were created from the ground up as their own Sentai entities, inspired by the Mega Ranger obviously, but not dependent on them. And of course, they are made to kill the Mega Ranger, trying to absorb all the knowledge each bears, but for some reason only get the general details of their abilities and skills. Not personal information, not their identities, loved ones, or places frequented such as the moon base. It's only stuff that is combat related. Rubes. But Kubota recognizes the designs of the Neji Ranger as one of Samejima's from before he went to the twisted side of the Force. What they did get from the brain drain, however, is the frequencies the digitizers operate off of. The Neji Ranger deploying to find the team in their civilian identities so as to eliminate them without any resistance. But there's a complication. See, it's established earlier in the episode that a recently trendy PDA, for those not familiar, this was the smartphone before there was a smartphone, and went the way of the dodo in the early 2000s. Anyways, it's established that PDA emits a similar tone to the digitizers, which the Neji Rangers mistake as belonging to the Mega Rangers, attacking these civilians. Kubota warns everyone in time to not tip off the Neji Rangers, asking them not to try and fight until they have a way to counter them. Kent is indignant, but
命を大切にしてくれ。生のお前たちを戦いに巻き込んでしまったことを後悔させないでくれ。
With his concerns about Samejima, however, Kubota decides to visit the man's old home, in hopes he can find a clue to confirm his suspicions, and it leads straight into a trap. The team notice such as they followed him, but a shield goes up preventing their entrance without transforming. And this is where they come up with a plan. A diversion. With Yuusaku's help, they create a dupe of the transmission frequency, putting it in the Digitank and luring the Neji Rangers away long enough for them to transform and get inside. As the two teams face off, Kubota tries to talk sense into Hinelar, but Hinelar has long embraced the path of the megalomaniac, far more than even the audience yet knows. And informing us of that here would have really helped with some later stuff we will be seeing. But still, his superiority in simple manufacture in this case cannot be denied.
これは復讐の序曲に過ぎんぞ。これで最後だ。なんだこれは。
This is one of the strongest moments in the series, as it gives you the undeniable truth of this event. Had Hinelar not recalled the Neji Ranger in this moment, the Megaranger would have died.
おっさん、約束を破っちまった上に謝るのは私の方だ。とんでもない戦いに君たちを巻き込んでしまった。
And why did Hinelar call them back? Well, the big reason for all of these experiments, on top of the world conquest scheme, was to find a means of harnessing the energy of Neji Regia itself, that of King Javius, as shown before with the poison Hinelar gave Garail. Each monster has been feeding an understanding of this power and how it connects to Javius. And now, the Neji Ranger's entire makeup is not only saturated in it, but draining it away from Javius in their clashes. So the more they fight, the more Javius' power is drained, and the easier it will be for Hinelar to assume command in totality, freeing him from the chains of his ruler. Thus drawing out the conflict is only to Hinelar's favor, at least at first, for once again, no matter what happens in these fights, he still wins. Problem is, Javius is aware of his power being drained, as Hinelar's method proved to be quite painful to the entity, meaning he needs to be careful and only deploy the Neji Ranger for so long on combat runs. However, this is where he made the mistake that is ultimately his downfall when you look back on things, and it's twofold. First, the Neji Ranger are obsessed with killing the Megaranger, to the point of defiance of orders, as is seen in the next episode, which complicates his dealings with Javius. Second, he left the Megaranger alive. The Megaranger, by this point, have a lot more battle experience to be able to adjust to stronger opponents, as well as more trust and teamwork with their allies. Meaning, given enough time, they can find ways to counter an initial superiority. The Neji Rangers are, in Hinelar's eyes, already perfect. There is no up from here, while the Megaranger, with flaws they can overcome in innovation and diversity, can still grow and overcome a stronger opponent when in theory such are the superior one. And that is symbolism with this series that goes back to the first episode, and to an extent is one that is meant to exist throughout the Super Sentai franchise, though it has failed in a number of modern entries, with Kenta's trained skill in the first episode outclassing the bully just using brute force. Now that's admittedly an element in a lot of series and not exclusive to this one, but I felt that foreshadowing was good in this case as that incident is a rather good parallel to the Neji Ranger arc as a whole. Unfortunately, the next part of it is effectively filler. With still no lead on the Megaranger's identity, Hinelar creates Lizard Najira to do the job, with X-ray vision. You know, he should have considered just hacking security cameras to locate footage of them transforming, considering what's about to happen. Or, hell, had them steal that knowledge of their appearance in the frickin' brain drain. The Neji Rangers have been added to the Mega Ranger game, Kenta trying to train against them, which makes me ask why they don't have a version of this game INET made on the base. probably would have avoided this situation, as when Lizard Nejira draws them out, the area is crowded, and Kenta transforms in a photo booth, a girl named Ayumi picking up the resultant snapshots. In the battle, the Lizard Nejira tries to use X-ray vision to see through the suits, but Kubota reveals later that their identities are write-protected while transformed. A shame that doesn't work during the process, as now Kenta is blackmailed by Ayumi to be her personal slave, beginning a long montage with Ayumi being a bratlet and making Kenta a slave to her demands. This appears to go on for an extended period of time, culminating in one final request: a moon rock. But after all this, Kenta snaps at her, and you can't exactly blame him. Blackmail is never a good thing, as shown earlier in the season with Miku and the pair of Shintaro and Jiro. At least Miku was clever enough to twist that to her advantage. Kenta doesn't have that capability. But, through Chisato, who volunteers at a hospital— Okay, no. No! When the hell would she have found the time to do that? Unless this happened as her summer job, with exams and graduation coming, that ain't happening for a normal teenager, let alone someone that doubles as a superhero. It's a bad plot device for the reveal that Ayumi and her brother wanted to become astronauts and go into space, and her brother contracted a disease that proved fatal. But their dream carried on. That's ultimately what she really wanted, just that trip. And had that been the exchange, Kenta would likely have been more than thrilled to grant it. Hell, informing Kubota of the situation would have likely allowed him to sign off on it in exchange for his silence. He's a cool mentor like that. But she missed having an older brother in her life, so took advantage of the situation to indulge in some of the things she used to be able to do. And that does make her the jerk in all of this. But to make up for it, Kenta goes to get that moon rock, though it's at the wrong time, as Lizard Nejira has overheard Ayumi's outcries and assaults her, trying to get Kenta's identity out of her. She escapes and uses a payphone to text the beeper she gave Kenta for her demands. Can you text from a payphone? I honestly don't know. Beepers were long dead by the time I got a phone. The lizard dies, but Nejired comes in to grab the girl, disobeying Hinelar's orders for them to lay low until he can organize a sedative which would render Javius unable to notice their drain, necessitating Neji Black drag him back, leaving the Megaranger just baffled. But in the wrap-up, Kenta is allowed to give Ayumi her and her brother's dream, a trip into space on a cyber slide. How is she breathing in space? You know, this explains so much about that little defiance of physics in Power Rangers. Later, Miku waits for Chisato out in Moriboshi's courtyard, having been asked to help Chisato with her photography, having put her own plans aside for her, only to learn Chisato already went on ahead with Shun. It's framed as Chisato ditching Miku for Shun's assistance, and as I have mentioned, Miku has an enormous crush on Shun, which thus makes this lead to the two girls bickering, and the self-destruction of the team dynamic as they refuse to even talk civilly. This seems really petty, but is kind of realistic to high schoolers and the whole teen drama thing. We misunderstand a situation, get pissed off, and refuse to talk to those trying to correct such a false misconception. Much like the user base of Tumblr, the cult of Trump, and the average YouTube commenter. Meanwhile, Neji Pink is approached by Neji Yellow, and they hate each other. Neji Yellow interesting Pink into a little competition in finding the team's identities. Naturally, this is part of a greater scheme of Neji Yellow's, using Pink as a lure in her own trap to get Chisato, which Miku plays part in generating after Shun ends up injured and she overreacts. But the second Chisato is abducted, the weight of her actions hits her. Kubota and the support workers begin to track down Chisato through her suit, but Neji Yellow thought ahead, installing a signal jammer in her restraints. But Neji Pink decides to backstab Neji Yellow, criticizing her methodology, thus leading to Chisato's escape as they are preoccupied with each other. This part really had a tone similar to a slasher flick to it, as Chisato has to struggle to escape her abductors to get to safety, while her friends and loved ones are concerned over her well-being. Shun trying to get Miku to make up with her when they get her back safe. Chisato's flight for freedom ultimately culminates in letting herself be blown up while the two Neji Ranger continue their infighting, faking her demise while breaking the cuffs, allowing the rest to back her up. But even one Neji Ranger, Pink stuck around, is still too much for them. The five finally combining their blasts on the cracked section of her visor, revealing... Wow, Biollante, you've really let yourself go. But even with the Neji Ranger armor destroyed, Neji Jealous is not an easy opponent, the Megavoyager requiring use of its freaking shield. That's a first. Even with the Megawanger's support, it requires them to overload the Voyager's Spartan to properly defeat it. Yuusaku's med playing human shield to finally do it. And with the first Neji Ranger down, Hinelar is not happy. The girls make up, Miku ready to finally be a model in Chisato's pictures, only to learn the entire thing was to be her assistant in carrying her equipment. Yeah, this certainly adds a better context to why she ditched Miku for Shun. The Neji Ranger are given a bit more range to operate as Hinelar succeeds in numbing Javius' pain and ability to sense his power loss, while the team thinks up a new way to combat them. Since Neji Red, Yellow, and Pink gave up the Neji Ranger's obsession with their matching color, Shun suggests trying to swap opponents, and it goes as badly as you would expect. The power disparity is still too extreme, that even with Yuusaku making it 6-on-4, they can't properly hold the Neji Rangers back from going after their preferred target when they disengage between blows. Shun is critically injured, and it's once again Javius calling the Neji Ranger back so as to keep them secret from Javius that actually prevents them from achieving their goal. Shun ends up having nightmares as he's patched up on Galaxy Mega, told when he's conscious to focus on healing, but he just can't, reviewing the combat data on Yuusaku's big screen. Wait, why does he have a big screen television in his workplace? Well, it must have been a piece of crap as the color goes out of it, and that leads to Shun's big idea.
これだ.
This explains so much about the effect used in 5 of a Kind, Power Rangers in Space's adaptation of this episode. That's a direct homage. There is no spray paint that won't leave a ring around an object you're painting in this manner. Was there an issue about just leaving a splotch of paint on the props, or wanting to save money so they didn't ruin said prop between takes? It's still not a good effect. But sure enough, Shun's Mega Blue ability to create illusions allows the rest of the team to assume doppelganger forms of himself to confuse the Neji Rangers, alongside Yuusaku in a Neji Silver suit. Yeah, even watching the source material, that part of the plan still makes no sense. It does, however, get Neji Blue alone, revealing his Neji Bizarre form, and freezes Megavoyager solid. But 30 seconds in an oven set to broil defrosts the mech, and the energy is vented to another overcharged Voyager Spartan. Hinelar continues to be baffled by this success, but as I point out, it's your own damn fault, dude. Your assurance in your superiority is finally coming to backfire on yourself, which we will see self-destruct in our final video on Megaranger. See you then.